Hello, my friend. This is the Mind's Gym podcast with Brandon Bickmore, your turbo lover. I want to sincerely thank you for listening. And the reason I started this podcast was to give back and let you know that if you are struggling with your thoughts and mental health, I promise you there is a way out, and that would be in, if you're willing to do the work. Please enjoy this episode. Hello, guys, listeners. It's Brandon Bickmore, your turbo lover. How's everyone doing today? It's been a few weeks, guys. I've had a busy 2-3 weeks, so we missed our podcast the last few weeks. I'm trying to put out one a week or one every other week. So thanks for your patience, and thanks for listening out there. And by the way, please send me feedback, and I want to know if this podcast's working for you guys, and please like and comment on the podcast, and check out themindsgym.com, see the new website that we built, and feel free to comment and like on there too. And excited to share another exciting, gripping story with a gentleman that I met at the Treehouse about 8 or 9 years ago. This young man's quite the entrepreneur. He's quite an accomplished individual. He was the CEO of a software company called Fishbowl. He's been had several awards, top 100 venture capital entrepreneur in 2011, 2012, 2014. He was the CEO of Franklin Quest Canada. Been a guest on several TV shows, including Fox Business, MSNBC, CNN, KSL, CBS, NBC, ABC. He's written a book, which we will discuss a little bit today. And then currently he's working with some family offices, some private equity groups, and some venture capitalist funds. And going to ask him some questions about that, since I'm currently putting together a real estate fund that we should be up and running here in the next month or two, and might have some questions for this young gentleman about that too. But this young man's name is David Williams, and he's if you don't mind I share your age, Dave?
Please do.
This young guy's, he's 65 years young. He's 65, but he looks like a 50-year-old. He's taken such good care of himself. And a few months back, I think it was September?
Yes.
September 1, this young man woke up and looked over to his wife and said, "I cannot move." And woke up paralyzed. And so goes from walking into the Treehouse gym where we met to going to bed one night and couldn't move and was in bed for 3.5 months. So I want to talk to him about his experience there, and also about his life. And also, as you guys know, this is the Mind's Gym podcast, and I'm hugely focused on, figuring out the human mind and what makes us tick and what keeps us motivated day by day. And after I heard Dave's story, a friend of mine, Jeff Graham, said, "Have you seen Dave at the gym recently?" And I said, "No. Where's he been?" And then, of course, Jeff tells me the story. He woke up and he couldn't move. And, and Dave's going to share the story about that. But what this life deals us, we never know. And I'm pretty excited to hear Dave's story. He's couldn't walk for 3.5 months. I saw him about a month ago at the gym. He rolled in on his crutches, which are arm crutches only. I believe he told me the doctor said he may never be able to walk again, or shouldn't be walking this soon, which he will share. But I just can't imagine losing the physical ability to get out of bed after seeing such a sharp, healthy, fit, human being, and the next day can't move. So Dave was kind enough to show up and share his story. He's quite an accomplished individual, and he mentioned he's kind of a little bit private and hasn't been doing a lot of social stuff recently. And so right when I asked him if he'd be on the podcast, he said yes, and it took us 2 or 3 weeks to get together because our schedules were conflicting, and so I'm honored to chat with you today, Dave, and thank you for your time and your energy. Dave is about this time. It's about 5 o'clock in the evening, and today's April 1st, 2024, and this is about the time he starts, I think, mentally and physically shutting down. So I'm hoping I can keep him awake for an hour or two. And so we may have to pause and stop a few times and allow Dave to stand up and stretch. He did mention that sitting is probably the toughest thing for him on his back. And so we'll hope Dave can keep his energy up, and maybe I could bring in some like dancing girls or something in an hour or two. Would that keep you going, Dave?
Totally. Oh, we could start earlier.
And so, anyways, we'll do what we can. We got him a drink and a glass of water and some little protein-rich shake that he's going to pound down here just to keep him motivated. So,
And just to clarify, not a drink.
not a drink.
Yeah, you got me.
He's got water and a protein shake.
Protein shake.
So, yeah. So he's
To make sure
he's
I'm
clean.
as clear-headed, even though I won't not sound that way very often.
I think you're going to do just fine, Dave. But anyways, I really appreciate you showing up.
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely, and I hope that you and I can have a neat conversation today, and hopefully we can at least change one person's life today. And if that happens, then
It's all worth it.
conversation was well worth it, right, for the both of
Yes.
us. And I can't wait to hear your story. So I already know you're going to change my life, and maybe I could share something too that could be a little pick me up for yourself.
Absolutely.
You never know.
No doubt.
So let's get rolling here, Dave. So, let's see. What do you want to talk about? You want to just briefly tell us, where were you raised?
Southern
grow up?
Southern Alberta,
Southern?
Canada.
Oh, you were from Canada. Mm-hmm. I had no idea.
I was born in Grand Junction to Canadian parents. We're down here getting their schooling. And that made me a U.S. citizen. And we were in Provo while my dad taught and tried to finish his doctorate degree, his educational doctorate degree. For schooling, he wanted to be a principal. And his younger brother, said, let's go back home where we were raised in Southern Alberta. Cardston is where they came from. And they had an opportunity to buy a small insurance brokerage that operated out of 2 towns. And that took us back from Provo to Raymond is where I moved to, a town of about 2,500 people at the time. And moved back there when I was in grade 8. So I think I was 13. So raised in Provo till then, but most of my memories of as far as just kind of evolving as a young person happened in Alberta,
So you're in Provo, Utah,
Provo, Utah.
right? Interesting. Mm-hmm. Huh. So you went from Utah to Canada
Right.
at 13. And why'd you move there?
Because my dad and his brother had an opportunity to buy insurance brokerage, and I think it was more of a gateway back for them to get home
Get home.
to where they multiple generations of Williamses come from.
Cool. And what did that look like? Your upbringing, childhood? Good? Crazy? Fun?
Good. with good parents, but being the oldest son, child, and also the oldest grandchild on the Williams side, there seems, or I self-inflicted a lot of pressure to please and to perform. So a double-edged sword, it was a lot of pressure, but at the same time, I performed. I had the physical, mental capability to do well in things, academically, sports-wise, working on the farm. I was sent out as a kid to go find bears that were killing our steer on a horse by myself in winter time. So, those type of things you kind of look at and go, wow, that was pretty incredible. But at the time, you just go do what you're asked to do. And that's just the nature of when in the 70s, you just went and did what your parents told you to do. No matter what, you never thought of the consequences. You just went out to perform and to come back. You don't come home until the chores are done or they send you back out.
Wow. That's crazy. Chasing down bears on a horse?
Well, finding the bears on the horse and then with my bow and arrow taking out the rogue bear that killed our steers.
Wow. The bear wouldn't attack the horse?
No,
No?
they're interested in their kill.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Was that a little mind numbing or scary or not so much?
It was more exciting than scary.
Wow.
And we have 10 of the bears in our home stuffed. They clear back to when I was a boy.
Wow. What an upbringing.
Yeah.
So you were raised on a farm.
Farm, ranch, kind of a hybrid of both.
How many acres did you live on?
2 sections, so 1,260 acres. Some of it was farmland to raise crops. The rest was to let the cattle graze.
Yeah.
And the rest was just too rough of a terrain. We're just outside the Rocky Mountains on the east side of the Rockies in Canada. First private land outside the national park up there. So you have Glacier in Montana. The little piece that goes up into Alberta is called Waterton. But it's part of the same park. Just the border changes the name. And we're the first private land east of that park. So we had this beautiful setting with all sorts of natural habitat flowing through us. On the south side, our fence line was Montana. And on the side of the fence line, which was just a barbed wire fence, was the Blackfoot Indian Nation. So there's nobody there. There's nobody that could get into our land. So it was like this paradise growing up. As a kid, it's like, okay, yeah, it's pretty, but, I had work to do all the time, chores to do and schoolwork. And so I didn't enjoy it until later, after I grew up and left, and then I could go back and then start taking my children back to the ranch I was raised on. And then I realized the beauty and the setting, the peace and tranquility. Instead of thinking of work, it was more to come back and enjoy this beautiful paradise that I happened to grow up on.
Wow. It's kind of so is life, as a young kid, you're going 100 miles an hour trying to figure it out and trying to please mom and dad, and yet you can't slow down enough to smell the roses,
No, I didn't.
I mean, we got too much going on.
I was not a good rose smeller.
Wow.
In fact, it took me a lot of my life to figure that out.
I think that's part of the program here. I've noticed at my age, in the last 10 years, that, you just do what you do. And nobody teaches us how to come into this world and see and how to hear and how to smell and how to taste. You're just going and moving along at this real steady pace. And now you get to be our age and slow down a little and things set you back, and it gives you a completely different mindset and perception of all the beauty that exists in front of us. Whereas a child, you're just like, just is what it is. But I mean, you were raised in the mountains. Mm-hmm. I mean, talking about?
We're here, our setting is in the mountains. It would be comparable, but the Rockies up in Alberta are a little bit more like Tetonish, more of a sharp, I don't know how to describe it correctly, but just more rugged
Yeah, a rugged terrain.
and high glacier lakes that were just incredible to go to. I mean, high like 10,000, 11,000 feet high lakes, glacier lakes.
Wow.
So those are some of the beautiful things that I did notice as a kid. That I'd go with my grandparents or my uncles, and they'd take us up, and we'd fish those lakes that hardly any humans saw.
Incredible. So did you feel like you had a lot of pressure put on you as a young child to go out and like work? I mean, how old were you when you were working and riding a horse and chasing down bears and feeding cattle? And
It started when I'd go up there with my grandpa when I was 5-ish, 6, and stayed the whole summer. Wow. So I learned how to ride a horse at a young age.
Yeah.
Going out and finding the cattle came later when I was 13, 14.
Wow. You grew up pretty fast then, though, don't you think?
You kind of have to.
I mean, you were a worker.
Yeah, I'm a worker.
Worker bee. Still today?
I've slowed down. But
a little bit, maybe not intentionally.
But work was a way for me to perform, kind of like athletics. There is an element to performance in work, to go do more than my parents asked me to do, maybe fix more of the fence line than I was required, or go find the calf that got lost from his mother, his or her mother.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be that guy. And I was motivated.
Yeah, you wanted to please your parents.
I'm a big pleaser.
Did you experience much fear out there running around on your own and on the horse, like cougars and stuff? Or?
Oh, there's cougars, wolverines, bears, black bears, grizzlies.
But no real
wolf
scary incidences or issues?
I've had a few.
I mean, any like share one crazy experience. I mean, I know cougars can be they're in my opinion, probably more scary than a bear. They're so sneaky.
They're so sneaky, and they're hard to see. Wolves are kind of the same. The more aggressive ones were actually the black bear. The mountain grizzlies are a little bit more, they're cocky and arrogant, but they're lazy. The black bears have to deal in the same domicile as the grizzlies. So their food sources are the same, and the grizzlies own the territory. So the black bears, which outnumber the grizzlies, I don't know, per square mile, maybe 2 or 3 to 1, were the ones that had to be more aggressive to survive. So those were the ones that would actually kill our deers.
Wow.
Were the black bears. I don't know of one grizzly that took any of our animals.
Why would that be?
Because they're lazy.
They can
find enough dead animals and things to eat. Mm-hmm.
So what's up with all the grizzly attacks on this planet? Why are they killing humans?
You just don't hear about the black bear because they're not as exciting to talk about.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And the black bears will not attack the humans unless they're cornered. They're timorous by nature. The grizzlies are a lot more confrontational.
So would you fear a grizzly or a bear in the wild today, or if you ran into a cougar on a hike? Would you little fear set in, or would you be all right with all your experience as a child?
I don't know today. Maybe because I don't have my bow and arrow strapped to my back or a gun on the saddle.
Yeah.
And I can't run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
Even though like sorry to interrupt, but even a bow and arrow, you got to be sharp. Like, I don't know if I'd trust my bow and arrow, and often a bow and arrow doesn't kill a large animal like that.
Well, you have to hit in the heart.
But that takes skill too.
Yeah, you have to have some skill.
Wow.
In Canada, you cannot pack a sidearm. You'll get put in prison if you're found with a sidearm anywhere, even on a ranch. So you have your rifles, but you can't bow hunt with a rifle.
Wow.
It just gets in the way. So you're out there with your bow and arrow, and you got to make sure your shot is accurate.
And
Or you'll lose the animal 9 out of 10 times. A couple of times they've turned on me.
they have.
Mm-hmm.
And come at you when you miss them. Mm-hmm. And then what?
You shoot again.
Are you shooting from your horse or getting off your horse?
You're off your horse.
Really? And who taught you how to shoot a bow and arrow so well?
As a kid,
Just doing
getting
it?
a bale of hay and shooting into it.
Wow.
Yeah, I had no older siblings or nobody that really bow hunted around me. But my grandpa said when I first went out to look for the first kill, whatever bear killed the steers, he said, if you're a real man, you'll do it with a bow and arrow. And I'm like 12 or 13. So I did. I did anything my grandpa asked me to do.
Wow.
So I learned at an early age how to use it and feel confident with it.
Wow.
Maybe more confident than with a rifle.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. So did you have any really close calls?
Actually, not when I was hunting as much as when I was out calving and looking at the calves. And one of the times I was down, I was again 13, 14-ish, and you know what it means to pull a steer? Mm-hmm. So the mother needs help. She's on her side. It could be breech or just a big steer she can't get out. Mm-hmm. And so this happened to be one that was breech, and we had a pulling device where you put around the cow's hips, reach in best you can, find something to attach the chain with, usually around the hoofs of the calf, sometimes around the head too, and hook it up and then start to winch it out. That's how you pull a calf, to help get it out, or the mother dies and the calf dies. And I was down doing that. My horse was standing right next to me, and this particular horse just would stand and was so obedient and really was protective of me. And rain's down, and I was sitting on the ground, and it's March-ish, April, first part of April. So it's cold, wet, snow is still around. And when I was pulling the calf out, the horse took off. Just took off out of nowhere and went about 30 yards to 40. And a grizzly had come out, was coming, and the horse ran right into the grizzly and kept pushing it and hitting it with its front hooves.
Wow.
To get that bear turned and gone. It was a sow, so most likely she was also just out of hibernation with cubs. And she could also smell all the blood
Of course.
that was going on with the cow.
Yeah, and the whining and the crying.
So whatever was attracting her, she was coming.
Wow. And did you see her cubs?
I did not see her cubs.
No. That's
Just
when
make an assumption, her coming out of hibernation,
Yeah.
older sow, most likely had 1 or 2 cubs.
Yeah. That's when you really got to be careful around a bear, right?
That's when you need to be cautious.
Wow. So that horse took care of you that day.
Protected me up,
And the grizzly took off,
took off.
moved on. Didn't bother with the
Well, it wasn't going to mess with the horse
cow
or the cow.
and the calf.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And it was kind of one of those slow motion moments where you see it all happening, kind of in slow motion, and
Love that.
and you just kind of look back down and keep going.
That's called being present when it's in slow motion.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Means you're in the now. You see more. You're not
I
past
thought
future.
I thought it was total fear.
Or fear, both. But notice everything slows down because you're so engaged into what's in front of you. You know, that's like the goal as we age. Like for me to slow down and smell the roses. It's similar. idea. You're just so engaged in what's in front of you and how we should interact with humans, and we don't.
Yeah, I'm glad you told me that. That's a different way to consider it, because up to this point, it's always been I was scared to death and almost an out-of-body experience. I'm almost watching it from above.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. That makes me wonder, too, is where, and I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit here, though. So if you're watching from above, where does your mind exist?
Maybe everywhere.
Maybe.
Maybe everywhere.
Yeah.
There's definitely a connection to what you're witnessing from above and connecting to your physical self.
Right.
So perhaps it's everywhere, or it can be everywhere.
Beautiful answer. I love it.
Don't know.
Yeah. I ask that question sometimes on the podcast because where's your mind? You can't touch it. You can't grab it. Like there's no physical feature to it. Like, where is the mind? Is it in your brain? Are we watching this world from outside of ourselves? Like, where's the mind? I know where the brain is, but where's the human mind?
And I don't know if the mind is just in the brain. And this may be off topic, Brandon, so you pull me back.
No. I don't know anything.
Well, I think it's also connected to our essence. Mm-hmm. Some people want to say soul or our heart. I think they're all connected, and we have different experiences based on all those connectivity components with what we call our mind or our brain, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's a great answer. And I don't know if anybody has the right answer.
Well, I know sometimes I think with my heart.
Sure.
And I know it's come from there.
Yeah.
So is that my mind?
Good question. You know?
I think we're connected. Our vital parts of our body are connected and can communicate to us in different ways if we're listening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the key, I think, is the awareness. Mm-hmm. Like you'll notice as you age, I've noticed for myself, like my physical and mental awareness has increased. You know, now I eat something and I see how I feel.
Yeah.
Back as a kid, I would just eat and then you move on. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, now I try to, I do my best to steer clear of sugar because when I eat it, I don't feel good. There's always a hangover.
Well, yeah, it's a poison.
Yeah,
So you shouldn't feel good.
Exactly. It is poison. But most humans don't even know that. Mm-hmm. That's all we're like marketed to eat and drink. And
yeah, if I have any sugar at all, I'll get a headache. I'm so clean of sugar.
Are you?
Yeah,
Impressive.
any bite of a cookie or anything makes me have a headache.
Wow.
Instantly.
How long have you realized that?
Since I'm 40, so 25 years.
See? Midlife crisis, man.
Totally.
You start thinking differently.
Woke me up.
Yeah. Got to get rid of sugar.
Yeah, before that, I'd get a half gallon ice cream, put it in a bowl, put it in the microwave, melt it a little bit, put a hand mixer in there, whip it all up, throw some nuts and some whipped cream on the ice cream, and eat the freaking thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing. While I'm sitting there watching TV.
Yeah.
And that was a regular occurrence. The interesting idea is that I didn't gain weight. So back uneducated, I'm thinking, well, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Go play basketball 3 times a week and stuff. I can eat this crap at night. And to your point, I wasn't thinking of it as how bad it was for my body. It was just so freaking good.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about, I'm going to ask you a question here. What about alcohol?
Oh, it's good for the soul.
It's good for the soul. Has sugar in it.
Has sugar in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll occasionally have some.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I've even cut that out of my life over the last 10 years.
Good for you.
It just does, when I drink it, it doesn't agree.
Yeah, it doesn't.
But it took me 40 years to figure it out.
Mine is a social. I'll do it with my wife, or if we're out to dinner, I'll have it a little bit.
Yeah.
And no, I know that it's not good for me.
Yeah.
I'm making a conscious choice to hurt myself, actually.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Crazy.
Like, and I don't judge. Like, I got buddies, drink, brothers, friends, family, like everybody to each their own. But like for me, it no longer serves me.
Yeah.
But
well, good for you. One of these days, well, just like I did to all the other sugars, I just said, no, thank you.
no more. Yeah.
But, going with my grandkids to a birthday, to have a piece of cake, I don't want to be so weird.
Yeah, for
Grandpa's always, he never
strict.
eats any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll do some
Of course.
and have a
80-20.
headache from it.
It's the 80-20 rule, right? 80% you eat good and 20% you can.
Yeah, mine's like 98 too.
98 too?
Yeah, 95.5, somewhere in there.
Oh, even better. Even better. Good to know that you're anti-sugar. It is poison though. It's crazy. I think I listened to a podcast a couple weeks ago. It said that sugar is literally the product on the planet that kills more people
Than anything.
than anything.
Anything.
Like beats cancer, beats
It does.
all the
It
medical
causes
diseases.
so many issues.
So many. And we have no
then we
idea.
just talk about it's diabetes. Well, where did
Yeah.
that come from? Because the guy's pounding sugar.
Right. Yep. Processed carbohydrates and sugar.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like you sit, and it's funny, you just hang out with people, and then you watch how they eat and whatever. And I always watch. I'm an observer.
Me too.
Like, how can you're 50 years old? How can you do that?
No, I just
And they don't even know that it's bad for them because they haven't taken the time to educate themselves, or they may not care.
or they can get they're still getting away with it.
Yeah.
But people that are obese that I go and I'll get a salad when we meet or something, and they'll buy hamburger and fries.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, man, if you could only just change a little bit,
Yeah.
you'd be so much happier. Actually,
It's a drug.
it's a drug.
Hard to kick. Hard to kick. That's why it's so fun to learn as we age, Learn what works and what doesn't and try to pay attention to everything you do. And it's just back to that physical and mental awareness. Like, I just try to pay attention to everything I say, everything I do, how everything makes me feel. And I don't know. It's been life-changing to me to sit back and watch me. I used to just go 100 miles an hour. Now I watch me go. And it's nice to observe. So
That's good at your age. You didn't have to wait till you're 60 before
Yeah.
that started to happen.
yeah, exactly. I'm only 52
Yeah.
and
See, you're just
still trying to figure it out.
a little young punk still. And you learned all these life lessons
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that midlife crisis thing, it'll change your whole world. Tell me briefly about your entrepreneurial career. Like, how'd you come into the line of work? You've got a whole list of things you did. How did you come into that line of work? And, what did you do to get you there? Was there another job you were doing or whatever? You just like, hey, I just don't want to work for the man. I just can only know to work for myself. Or what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know if there was a moment, Brandon, that clicked to me, but even in high school, actually in junior high, one of the ways that you could make some pretty good money as a kid up on farm ranch land is to go buck bales. And back then, it was right when the hay machines were coming out where somebody could just drive, pick up a bale, it would stack it. Don't even know the official name, hay stacker, driver, big machines. But other than that, unless you're really rich as a farmer, you wouldn't have that. You'd go out and buck bales and put them on a flatbed, haul it to a place, make it stack. That's how you cleared your field. And if you didn't get the hay bales out in time, if a storm came through and got them wet, those could be ruined. And they're heavy when they're wet. So I would go do that, and I started to think, I got paid, I don't know what some of the hourly rates were back now, because I shifted from that, and I'm going to tell you how I shifted. let's say it's $5 an hour, which was pretty good money back in early 70s for a junior high kid. So you're making $40 a day, working all day long. You're strong, you're getting stronger actually. Poor form, using your back in all the wrong ways. And I just decided that I'm the hardest worker out here. I'm going to go to the farmer or rancher and say, hey, I'd like to get paid per bale. And I'll get, actually, the bales will come off quicker that way. And let me kind of decide how I pay the guys, my buddies that I'll hire. So I started my own little company, not officially, but went into 10 cents a bale. And so I was making $25 an hour.
Damn.
And then I hired my buddies and came and took 10% of what they made. And I handled all the financing with the farmers.
Oh, that's so
and I'd
cool.
pay my buddies, usually cash, but sometimes checks would come. So I've just had kind of that whole mindset of how can I do something more efficient and get compensated fairly for that efficiency? Because everyone's winning, so why can't I win more?
Yeah.
And that kind of started that path, I guess, as far as I never thought of working for somebody.
That's so cool.
Never really have. I mean, when I was CEO of Franklin Quest Canada, that was the only W-2. Well, there was two. It was a W-2, but it was a brand new, it was entrepreneurial, had to open up everything. So it never felt like I was working for somebody. They just gave me free rein to go and do what I could do. So
That's amazing. That's so cool that you had the whereabouts and the thought to, it's where it all starts. It's like the mind starts grinding, I remember as a little kid, I tried 2 or 3 different adventures when I was, 8 or 10 years old. I was trying to invent little businesses to sell walking around the neighborhood, whether it was selling lemonade or
yeah.
I remember I'd roll up old newspapers that we'd gotten that were months old, and I'd roll them back up and walk around the neighborhood and resell them. But I was 7 years old, and I was just a cute little kid. And they're, hey, I'll sell you this newspaper for a nickel. And boy, I sold quite a few of them. But, they already had the paper because they got the same paper we got. But what makes that little mind
Yeah.
start to work? And thankfully, too, that you were out grinding in the field, figuring out your life, and nobody was like hodling you or coddling you.
No.
You were figuring it out. That's what's so important nowadays.
There's no coddling
Like, kick
when I
me
grew up.
in the rear and go figure it out, Dave.
Right.
That's why you've been so successful, in my opinion.
That
You had
li-
to figure it out as a young buck.
And as an entrepreneur, as you know, you have to figure it out all the time. I mean, some things
Absolutely.
repeat themselves, but there's a lot of new stuff when you try a new endeavor.
Yeah.
That hit you, or even if it's the same stuff, it's different timing or different people or whatever.
So neat.
It's just challenging all the time. That's the thrill of it.
Yeah. And yeah, I just love the different stories and how people fall into their industry or their line of work or whatever, and what that little thing that spurs or motivates you to go out and grind. And $25 an hour as a 15-year-old kid in the 70s?
Oh, I bought a
That's a
truck,
lot of money.
a motorcycle. I bought all my own clothes because my parents wouldn't let me buy Levi's because they were $5 a pair.
Yeah.
I was a Levi guy, man.
Dude, you were a rock star back then. Still are, right?
I don't know, but
Yeah. That's neat.
there was some driving forces too for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Tell us a little bit about that. What were the driving forces?
I'm just saying there was motivation
yeah.
besides wanting to do a good job for whoever I was working for. I wanted to outperform, and I knew the fruits of my labors would yield me some freedom.
Yeah.
And, as a 14-year-old kid, you could drive in Canada. I had my own truck.
Damn.
I'm driving to 14, 15, 16, I think grade 9. Yeah, ninth grade. I'm driving up in a truck to ninth grade.
Wow. You were the man.
Picking up all my buddies along the
Yeah.
way. Or Ford F-150.
Really?
Yeah.
Like a highboy or what? That was, yeah, what? Do you remember what you were driving?
I don't
Was it
know.
4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive?
Two-wheel. Rear wheel. But it had a little cab. It wasn't a super cab. It was like a little half cab
Little extra
behind the
cab.
seat, little extra half. And so you could have a friend that could kind of sets on a slant in the back, and it had a little tiny bench.
So cool.
Yeah, I thought,
Wow.
yeah, I'm pretty cool, man.
You were probably getting all the ladies back then too, weren't you?
No, it was too boring to spend. So I wanted to go out and have fun, but there's actually 2 or 3 girls that were more tomboyish
Yeah.
and actually were super fun.
Wow.
But it wasn't to go out and
Yeah.
make out or
They were
anything
just-
like that. It was just to go out, and it was a vehicle to get us to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Shoot rabbits out of the back of it.
Awesome.
Go out on the gravel roads to see if you could lift the whole truck off the road going over a culvert. Those fun things.
Dukes of Hazzard?
Oh, they didn't even do even close to what we did. They were pussies.
They couldn't hold a candle to
Yeah.
your skill set?
No, we've got like 8 guys in the back of the truck, and I'm all 4 wheels are lifting.
In the
I'm
air?
going like 110 or 20 on a gravel road.
Really?
I don't know how we didn't die.
It-
We
Isn't
should
it
have died
amazing?
all the time.
I say that all the time. I don't know how I'm alive today.
Yeah.
Literally. Impressive. I love it. So tell us a little bit about like your experience with maybe Fishbowl and whatever that like what was your biggest, most exciting or most challenging venture? You've done quite a few. Share a quick few thoughts.
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about. I don't know if there's probably the most fulfilling one personally was Fishbowl.
Yeah.
Because after I was CEO of Franklin Quest Canada, I wanted to go with Covey leadership, because the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Human Beings, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People came out in '89, and that was the content rich. That made sense to me. That was beautiful to me. Franklin had a great distribution and system, ABC, 1, 2, 3. The more you write, the more you can check off. It was a drug. Covey came in with this whole different approach of balance and roles and goals, and you shouldn't be doing anything if it doesn't match up with your roles. Why would you be doing all this other stuff? So I wanted that. I wanted to be a part of that. And he was a BYU professor, came out with this book that launched a business. But he's not a business guy. He's a speaker, he's a writer. Incredible human being. He walked his talk. And so he had been an advisor to a company that I had co-owned in the early 80s, a summer book selling company. We were the first company to hire guys from college to go out and knock doors, but we're selling books, religious books, man.
Wait a second. Were you the first, or was that the Mormon Church?
Yeah, they're the first.
They've been selling it for a long time.
Yeah, but ours, yeah, that's true. I
Just
thought
kidding.
about that. But no, they were, as missionaries, you gave the books away free. You weren't taking cash for them.
Yeah.
So anyway, Stephen was an advisor at that company, and I came down to some Franklin meetings and called him and said, can we go to dinner? He said, absolutely. So I went to dinner, and he said, this is a year and a half after 7 Habits came out. And he said, we're about done our next book, and it's already pre-sold over 1 million copies, hardbound copies. And at that time, he had shattered the records for hardbound leadership books. Nobody had ever done what he did. He was this rock star for Simon & Schuster. So their second book, called First Things First, took part of the habits, the first three habits, and it really was a time management, personal effectiveness tool that competed directly with Franklin. So he said, well, would you come and start that for us and run it? I said, well, you know what I'm doing. And I said, I'll go to Hiram and say, I'd like to come back to Provo, and I'm actually going to work it with Covey. And if he supports me and kind of lets me out, Canada's doing great. I have a succession plan. It's not like they'll miss me, but I don't want to, they're 45 miles from each other. I don't want to be an enemy to Franklin, even though Covey will become an enemy business-wise. So I met with Hiram, and he said, you want to go work with that professor and give up all this stuff and your stock options and stuff? And I said, yeah.
You did?
I do want to.
Wow. Because let's explain to listeners, there was a Franklin Covey, which was based in
Franklin Daytimer.
Franklin Daytimer.
And then it was called Franklin Quest.
And wasn't that
separate before
Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake City, way before Covey was around.
Okay. I remember the Day Planner.
They were their own entity.
Yeah, they were downtown Salt Lake off like 9th South or something, right?
Well, at least their big
21st South.
headquarters is over by the Maverick Center
Yeah.
in that area. So
that was Franklin Day Planner.
Day Planner, then it moved to Franklin Quest.
Oh, okay. So there was a name change.
Yeah, the name changed, and they went public.
Okay.
And so that was 91. Came to Covey, worked on the First Things First division, which is called, that's the name of the book, First Things First. And that was entrepreneurial as well. I mean, it was a brand new company that everyone wanted the 7 habits. I'm in there forming a new division called First Things First with some really talented people, like longtime friends that I'd actually had the chance of working with again. And one of the toughest challenges that I've ever had, going back to your question, the question, it was not hard to sell First Things First once you got into the market. It was extremely hard to get out of Covey to sell it, because the 7 Habits saw First Things First as a threat to them selling the 7 Habits, the full package. They just thought it was cannibalizing. Instead of, my whole statement was actually not. It actually gives 2 opportunities. First Things First uses a tool, a day planner, let's call it, a Covey planner. And that can merge into the 7 Habits if they don't buy that first. If they buy 7 Habits first, they come back to First Things First, and we just drill in on those first 3 habits. But it still didn't, I was too much of a maverick and wanted us to succeed. I became that maverick guy that could hurt the company.
Really?
So I had some enemies within, but not to the point where it was like, that would make me feel like I can't do this. It was, they should have done that to me, because I'm the wrong guy to try to do that with when I know I'm doing something right. If I was doing something wrong to hurt the company or hurt somebody, I'd go, okay, I can see your point. But no, it made me have more fire.
Yeah.
And we actually, the last year I was there, which was 95, we surpassed 7 Habits as far as revenue. So it became the big guy on the block.
Really?
And the only reason why I say that is because it was an interesting shift in how they perceived us when that became a threat. Some people even hated me more.
I'm sure.
But most of them thought, oh, okay, wow.
That created some friction.
But it also teed up a lot of 7 Habits sales, like I had always told them it would.
Right.
And then I knew, then Franklin went courting to Covey, came courting. Franklin had the money and the infrastructure. Covey was cash flow choking. Papa Covey could not write a check anymore to cover the needs. And they'd used all the lines of credit as high as they could. So they needed an assistance. They needed somebody like Franklin. It was a perfect marriage on paper. Distribution, day planner, money, Covey, content. Let's put them both together, become Franklin Covey.
Right.
And I was the only one that had worked at both places. And I'm the one that said, this is not going to work. The egos are so large.
Right.
How will this all work out? And so when I started to make that statement in an executive meeting, I became the bad guy again. I'm like, don't you try to hurt this deal. This is all the Covey guys.
Yeah.
This is the right deal for us. And it's the only way we're going to continue to grow at the pace we are. And they're paying a lot. They called it a merger, but it really was an acquisition. Franklin acquired Covey.
Well, they did, huh?
Yeah.
That's how it went. I had no idea. That's how that all went down.
Outwardly facing
Nobody
a
knew.
merger,
Yeah.
two big companies merging. But no, the money, it was an acquisition.
Wow. And did you get pushed out of the picture?
No,
Did you stay on board?
When they decided to go forward, I resigned. And just didn't want to go through that collision
Yeah.
and be a part of the fray. I was done anyway. Been there 4 years and had accomplished what I could walk away with my head high.
Wow.
So I did. I just resigned and didn't know what I was going to do. Decided I'd be a consultant. I had a friend that was a real consultant and organizational design, an OD consultant. Went to school for it, very successful. And I went and asked, his first name's Scott. I said, Scott, how do you become a consultant? He says, just tell people you are.
That easy?
I said, okay, what should I consult in? He says, well, you're good at this and this and this, and you've had this experience. Just tell them. That's who you are. And he says, you'll get business. And I don't know how long, a month, 6 weeks. I was like, booked. I was making more money than I'd made since I was on my own. Way more than when I was at Franklin and Covey
Really?
per month. Yeah.
And how long did you do that for?
3 years, 4 years, right up to about 2000.
Then what did you do?
And then I was driving home from Salt Lake and saw that yellow ugly plume in Utah Valley from Geneva. And I'd see it all the time. I go, well, Geneva's closed. Why is this crap in the air all the time? And I thought somebody should do something about it. So I decided to put a team together and go buy it.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
You bought Geneva?
Well, out of the courts, and
did?
it became the stalking horse for it. And long story short, 3 years, I put every penny I had and I bet the farm on it. And I had a lot of people that bet their time and energy on it too, put a lot of sweat equity into it, from engineers to attorneys to architects, etc. And, it's 1,500 acres in the heart of Utah County. 1,200 acres, I think. 1,200 acres plus I bought another 300 contiguous farmland. But so started the cleanup, brought people in, had Sorensen Capital as the local partner. They had just come to town, just gotten set up. And AIG, back before they became really bad people, and they were going to be the brownfield developer. And there were some sites that needed to be cleaned up, but it hadn't hit the groundwater anywhere. Just mostly topical stuff that needed cleaning. And so I went and did that and ended up getting rid of it to Anderson Development because I just didn't have the pockets to keep going.
So you sold all 1,500 acres?
All of it, yeah.
Sold the whole thing?
Actually pretty much gave it to them.
Wow.
Just because I didn't know what to do going forward. Even with AIG and Sorensen, there's just so much legal stuff. I was probably still, it took Anderson, I believe, almost a decade to get the approvals they need to be able to develop it, get the slag pile out of the way. They sold a piece of it down in Vineyard. When it started, Vineyard's like, I can't believe how many people live in Vineyard.
Yeah.
There was nobody there but some gentleman farmers. And the first one to come in and buy part of the property was Golden Landscaping. He built a golf course down there, and that was kind of the first development that came in. It was new and generated homes all around the golf course, etc.
Wow.
So I did that and lost everything, and then went back into consulting, get some cash flow. I owed a ton of money, credit cards. I was carrying everything on credit cards. Back then, you could get another Platinum American Express by just having a not credit rating, but just paying your bills. Yeah. You could apply for another one.
Really?
Another one. And so I was paying credit cards with credit cards.
Wow.
And had to get out of that, and it took me 3 years to get out of that afterwards and pay everyone back all the sweat equity I wanted them to bill me. So I just didn't want to bump into them and have them feel like they spent all that time and I failed. So I wanted to pay them all back, the architects, attorneys, etc.
And you paid them all back?
Every penny.
Oh, my goodness. That's an honorable human being.
Well, it was, again, you could file bankruptcy, which I still owe people money. I mean, bankruptcy is protection, and I did nothing wrong. It could have been a tool, but I just kept thinking, nah, bankruptcy just buys you some time.
Yeah.
So why don't I just ask for time with the credit cards and other people? I had leases on for equipment with banks. I just asked for time. I said, you can sue me, but I don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. Give me some time, and I'll start chipping away every month. And what I tell you I'll pay, I will pay that every month. $10, $15, $50, $100. And it's just started knocking down the credit cards first. What's interesting, Brandon, is, I was at the worst level of credit card billing. I'm where they call you and they tell you, we're going to kill you type of thing if you don't pay us.
Really?
And I just said, do what you got to do. I'll pay you this amount, and you freeze the interest on it, and the late penalties, freeze it all, or I'll never be able to pay it.
And they did that?
All of them did it. Discover Card was the toughest on me.
How old were you then?
25 years ago, so 40-ish.
Wow.
41, 42.
It's probably a tough time in your life.
You think? Yeah.
Going from riches to rags.
Rags, and having my kids and having neighbors that leaving notes with my kids or giving my kids at school telling what your father's such a jerk and a loser and a liar and a whatever.
Wow.
That was tough.
Man, that's a heavy burden. I can't imagine the dollar amounts back then, and
it was about $2.7 million
that you had to pay back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's hefty.
Yeah, but again, it's just kind of like my current situation. I just thought, give me time. I'll work. I'll honor my word. If I can't pay something per month, I'll call you. It won't just be like, it didn't show up. I'm thinking of a particular one like with Zion's. I owed them $35,000 in leases on all the stuff I had in my office, the people were working on. They were tough, man. Chuck, I never met Chuck, but he was probably, he sounded in his 60s,
Yeah.
and he was cranky. And I think I called him first, and he said, "No, we don't take payment plans on leases. We got all the equipment back." And I said, I know, I gave it all back to you. And he said, "We're going to sue you for the rest." I said, "Well, what will that do?" He said, "Give me a chance, Chucky." He didn't say that. I said, "Mr. Chuck, please give me a chance." And I think I started maybe 300 a month with them. And he'd call me every month. And I'd look at my phone and go, "Okay." Pick up and goes, "Yeah, just want to check in and see how it's going. Can you increase it?" Said, "No, but when I pay off some other things, I will." And so fast forward that, almost 3 years of doing that with them, I'm down to like, I think it was around 4,000 left to pay them. But after the first year, it was interesting because his calls became supportive. It was kind of like, "Wow, okay, hey Dave, how's it going down there?" It's more like, "Where'd you come from, Jack? All of a sudden you're my friend."
Really?
And so he probably put his neck out on the line, and I showed up and made him look good.
Yeah, you did. And you honored your commitment.
Yeah, I never missed a payment. Never ever even had to call him. I didn't never want to call this guy.
Yeah.
And so I just want to wrap it up by one of the coolest things that ever happened to me is so there's, let's say 4,000 left. I'm not quite sure. It could have been 5, it could have been 3, but it's somewhere in there. And it's a Friday afternoon. I'm out walking out my back door, and it's like 5. And here's Chuck calling me, and I'm going, I still don't want to talk to Chuck. I picked it up anyway, and says, "Hey, Dave, how's it going?" I said, "Well, good." And he said, "We just got out of our meeting." The first call I ever had with him, we just got out of our meeting and we decided this is what has to happen. So he starts the conversation, "I just got out of our meeting." And he said, "We would like to write off the rest, if that's okay." No, it was more than $3,000. 33. It was like 10 grand left. So I'm probably 2 years away still from paying him off. So we just got out of our meeting, whatever that meeting's called. And he said, "We'd like, if it's okay with you," this is how he said it, "if it's okay with you, we'd like to write the rest of it off." And I just fell to the ground and cried.
Wow. That's amazing.
Never met Chuck. I wish I would have.
And Chuck's probably gone now.
Probably.
He has no
Or
idea.
maybe he's still calling people. I don't know.
Maybe. And if he was guessing in his 60s 25 years ago, he's 85 years old,
Yeah.
90 years old. Remember his last name?
I don't. He would have told me at first. And it's just, again, I was trying to, people like that, I just wanted to just perform and please don't call me.
Yeah. That's a neat story. And nowadays, I wonder if that happens. How often would something like that happen today?
It'd probably be harder to do it because credit cards and other lending agencies are so quick to snap and cut your head off
Yeah.
if you underperform or try to hurt you. And I'm thinking the whole time, why hurt me if I'm willing to try?
Yeah.
At least let me show you.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can't do it in 2 or 3 months, then I get it.
Then you can hang me out to dry. That's so cool. As you process that now with all the regulations and it's almost like the humanness is coming out of the corporate America, right? They got these laws to live by, and they're not budging
Not budging.
an iota.
Since 08, 09, 10, I just think
Yes.
it's changed the landscape so much.
And how neat is that for a guy? And what I love too, Dave, is you honored and did everything you said you were going to do, and you communicated that with Chuck.
Yeah. Well, with everybody.
Yeah. That's something to be incredibly proud of.
And back then, there could have been HCH. I don't know. But I was writing checks every month, all through the month. Everyone was on a different date. I actually wrote up an agreement myself and sent them to whoever I was talking to, saying this is what we agreed to on the phone, $10 a month. I'll increase it when I can.
Wow. And then you're out consulting to cover your dues.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive, Dave.
Well, I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, of course. Now you got a new battle.
Got a new battle, and so that helps me with this battle.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
All those things layer. That history we have layers, and then allows us to show up as who we are today.
I'm not saying bankruptcy is wrong or bad for anybody.
Sure.
I just know well enough, working and having my own company, that's a brand you don't want to get if you can avoid it. I mean, it's on for 7 years,
Yeah.
but it's forever. You're going to be asked that question on every application you ever do the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Have you filed bankruptcy?
Yeah.
So that was haunting me.
Really?
And I just thought, all that does is buy me time.
Wow.
And I've got this brand now on my forehead. Not going to do it. So I don't know, Brandon, if there'd have been enough of them to say, no way. I don't know. But everyone, I guess since they heard my sincerity, my desire, and I was proactive to say, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And here's what I can do.
And you made it right.
And what's that?
And you made it right.
Yeah, made all of them right.
Yeah. I don't know Dave that well. We've only had some minimal conversations at the gym. And getting to know you, that's why I love this intimacy. How often do you sit and have a real conversation with a human being for an hour that you've rarely know or have met or really understand their life? Dave and I chatted for 30 minutes today before we turned on the push record, and we shared some pretty neat stuff. But just getting to know you and listening to your story, like I just got to say, I love your mind.
Thank you.
And your human drive and your diligence to show up even at the worst of times. Like you figured out a way. That's a $2.7 million 25 years ago. That's a lot of money.
Brandon, I really thought it would be the rest of my life I'd be paying for it.
Did you?
But
really?
I was willing to do that.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not again like, so I will be so cool or an arrogant thing. I think we have obviously some pride, but it was more like I owe these people money. So I don't want to see somebody like in a restaurant or somewhere where they kind of look at me and go like that.
Yeah.
Like there is that guy that we lost money with.
Yeah.
Or I lost money with, or I lost time with, or whatever. I just couldn't do it.
You don't want to be the guy that doesn't pay his bills?
Yeah, don't want to be one of those guys that I know a lot of.
Jeez. It's pretty neat. So, as I sit here and consider, did mom, dad, or grandpa teach you to have that type of integrity? Where did you learn that? Somebody teach that to you, or is that just something that came from within?
I think I was just raised that way, that you honor your word. I don't know if I can pick one of them. I just think I come from a good family that has high integrity and strong characters. And again, I think I go back, Brandon, to my pleasing personality, and at the same time, I just do not like disappointing people. So there's probably some of that in there mixed into that. And My mom's a pistol. She's a true, I mean, she's 88. She still walks 5 miles a day. She just, and my dad was a bit more laid back and passive. She definitely was the leader of the family. And I'm straying a little bit from your question, but she's the one that made me do things. My dad is the one that taught me things. And his dad was even more of a teacher. They both were teachers. And my grandpa, back when I was a kid, 5, going up and staying all summer long with my grandpa, he really became my true mentor, both spiritually and in life's journey. He just taught me at a young age things. And I just worshiped him because I knew he loved me.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on that when you started into this conversation about Grandpa and him teaching you and hanging out with him on the farm.
Yeah.
We're so impressed by our elders as little kids. We look up to them like they're almost godlike, you know?
He was 5'2", 3,
Yeah.
120 pounds-ish. He lost both his knees as far as being able to walk. I'd make these little baling. I just loved him so much, I'd do anything. I'd just take some baling twine and make these little stirrups I'd tie to my jeans, throw them on my back, and he'd put his legs in the stirrups and we'd go walking because he loved to walk. And he talked to me the whole time.
Really? Wow. Sounds like a pretty incredible relationship there. Yeah, I can tell you're a little bit emotional about that. Incredible human being.
Grateful for him.
Great man.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had some pretty neat human beings guiding you along your path.
We do.
Lucky
Yeah.
you.
Lucky me.
Lucky you. Well, let's discuss your current life challenge that has showed up for you. I briefly know from what you told me at the gym and from what Jeff mentioned, but September
1, woke up and got off the edge of the bed and couldn't walk. Out of the blue. No soreness, no fever, no prior indication that there was anything wrong at all. I'd just been to the gym the day before. And it took me a few days to get calling the right people to get to a neurosurgeon. Because I just thought, it's kind of like my upbringing. You just kind of, this will go away. I can tough it out. It's got to be muscular. My skeleton may be off. I already have my lower back all fused. I thought maybe it was there, but it didn't hurt there. So it was a Monday, I think, September 1, whatever that day was. It was about 5 days later. I finally talked to our neighbor who is a infectious disease doctor and for several of the hospitals. And we've been friends for quite a while. And I just called him up and said, hey, this is what's going on. The pain has gotten to a level 9+ at that point, where I'm literally every movement, cough, anything is so painful, I can hardly take it. And I'm only 4 days into this. And he said, you need to get to a neurosurgeon. And I said, well, I don't know any. Do you know some? He said, well, the two I would go to personally, they're booked. He said, but let me call, because I work with both of them. And I think it was maybe a half hour later, I got a call. Can't remember if it was back from him or the actual neurosurgeon's office. One of those two called me right back and said, come in, we'll stay till you get here and get an MRI on the way. And I'm thinking, well, I can't even move. How am I going to get an MRI? So I had this big burly 6'6" friend that could just come and pick me up under my arms, carry me into his truck, take me down to get an MRI, take me down to American Fork to the appointment, and just carried me. It was the only way I could do it. And because I didn't have a walker. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to walk anyway. So nothing would have helped unless he did that for me, which I'm really grateful for. And went down. They had the MRI called STAT, which means that the radiologist needs to read it within 30 minutes. And so they had it before I got there, and they said, we're getting a room ready for you at the hospital. You're not going home.
Wow. Let me back you up for 1 second. So when you woke up, could you sit up on your bed?
I could sit up on my bed.
Then you go to get off your bed and walk, and your legs wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work. And there was not much pain.
No pain, but you just had zero use of your legs.
I wouldn't say zero. I could, and I did, kind of swing them back and forth to try to move, because they wouldn't bend, they wouldn't walk normally, because of that, not knowing at the time all my nerves had been cut off. So there was no capability. So it was just my will to swing them, my hips, to try to get them to go forward. And that's how I kind of walked across the room to get to the bathroom. I was able to kind of keep my balance still at that point.
So you could kind of walk enough to get to
Couldn't feel my legs at all, but
you could swing them.
I could swing them. I could lock
keep
my
your
knees,
balance?
lock my knees in place and keep my balance. I did fall several times. I still have markings from where I fell. But I mean, again, Brandon, I didn't know what was going on. I'm just thinking, I mean, this is super weird, but it'll pass. Everything passes. So that's when days later, when it got worse and worse and worse, that's when I called the doctor who got me the appointment, and went down there. They saw the MRI, said, you've got fluid in your spinal cord. We need to go in and remove it. We don't know what it is. So later that night, the surgeon came back from home, and gratefully, he, after a long day of surgery, he still came back, and I think it was 10 or 11 o'clock that night when he performed the surgery on me for a couple of hours, 90 minutes, I think, or 2 hours, something like that. Cleaned out all the infection, sewed me back up, sent me back into the room. At that point, I'm not moving at all. There's no movement. I can't twitch my toes. I can't even do anything at that point now. I don't know if the surgery completely took it away or if it was just going to happen anyway. Not quite sure. And they kept me there at the hospital. On day 5, they had done another MRI and said, gosh, there's more stuff in there that we missed.
Wow.
So we got to take you back in. And this time we want to do a biopsy anyway, because the cultures we took didn't grow anything, meaning it's probably cancer. So they want to take a biopsy, assuming that was what I had. And that came back negative. And nothing cultured. So they have no idea what it is in my back. They have no idea where it came from. And they're trying their best. They're trying to ask me questions like, did you have recent dental problems, infections? Did you have a surgery? Have you been to weird places? Have you eaten some food you never tried before? I mean, they went down their list several times. And my great neighbor, who's the infectious disease doctor, is frustrated because he can't figure it out. And nothing's culturing. He told me in his all of his years of practice, I think he said I'm only the second one who's never been able to figure out what it is. So went home after that, started PT in home. I was on a PICC line and was getting about 10 hours of antibiotics a day, 3 different kinds that were, two of them had to be twice a day, and one was once. And they're about an hour and a half a piece. And so I did that, got another MRI about 3 weeks later, got a call saying it's back.
What?
So you need to come in tonight, and we need to go in again.
Not 3 surgeries. This is your third surgery?
This is the third. Yeah.
So they're assuming or guessing it's an infection of some type.
They assume it's bacterial.
And for this 3 or 4 weeks, are you in bed?
Oh, I'm not moving at all.
You can't move.
Can't move.
Are you in the hospital or are you at home?
I'm at home. They wanted me to go to a long-term care facility, and I just thought I'd do way better at home. And I can, my wife is such that she's will be cool with it and take care of me. And we talked about it, and she had to press pause. I mean, Brandon, I'm like a newborn.
Yeah.
I can't do anything for myself. Pooping and peeing all over me, and
Really?
it just
Nothing
from my waist down worked. I couldn't feel anything.
Oh my goodness. So do you, this is what, 3 or 4 weeks in?
And that
Third
third surgery, the
how
third
far
one
in there?
was end of November.
So it's been 2 months.
Yeah.
You've been in bed for 2 months.
I've been in bed for, like after that first week in September. So I'm in bed 2.5 months at that point.
My goodness. And just listeners, just so you know, this young man, Dave, at the age of 65, he's what, 5 days a week at the gym? How many days a week do you go to the gym?
5,
7?
6.
6?
Yeah.
You're a 6-day guy? I'm
Yeah.
a 5-day guy. You're a 6-day guy? So 6 days a week at the gym religiously.
You need to up your game.
Tell me about it. I'm getting old though, Dave. Give me a break. So you're, eating well,
Almost perfect.
exercising. You're physically fit, obviously. Any other stressors in your life going on at the time any massive stressors that were around September leading up to it?
Yeah.
Only reason I ask is because of the stress that I was enduring for those couple of years with the crippling anxiety.
Yeah.
I had a few physical things going on. I was like, what is going on? But my mind was a little off. I mean, were you stressed or worried or anxious or
I don't really get stressed or worried.
really?
Like in the truest sense. I'm sure I do. And maybe to your point, I put away stuff
Yeah.
really quick, and I guess to hide it would be a term, or to just bury it.
Yeah.
and stuff it and just keep going.
Yeah.
And again, because I just don't complain and stuff. It isn't in my constitution to really get stressed about stuff. But looking back on it, to your point, yeah, we'd had a couple of businesses we'd lost millions of dollars in time and energy, and it had been such that it was bad actors that had caused it, people that we had trusted. So it wasn't the money or anything that hurt me. It was the disappointment in people that we thought were true friends.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it could have been
So a
that. It
little
could have
bit.
been building up. In fact, they said that infection could have been brewing and coming for months or maybe years. But I had no symptoms of anything, of infections. I was never sick. I never had fevers or headaches or anything like that.
No symptoms whatsoever
None.
leading up to this.
My back didn't hurt.
Crazy.
Yeah,
These human bodies,
yeah.
you just never know.
So to your point, sure, were there some stresses that I bottled up?
Likely.
Sure.
Do you think that played a part at all as you look in the rearview mirror?
I don't know.
Not sure.
Maybe.
Maybe, maybe not.
For me, not sure,
Not
to tell you the truth.
Yeah. You never know.
Never know.
Even when you know, you don't know.
It would make sense that it contributed to some degree. To what degree? I have no idea.
It's nuts.
So want me to keep going?
Yeah, so back to the third surgery. They
Third
caught
surgery.
the infection again.
Got it cleared out, came home, started back up with my PT and in-home care. Back on IVs. I switched around the IVs a little bit. Not the IVs, the antibiotics a little bit. And I think after the third surgery, it flattened me in all ways. So back to your point of not getting out of bed, not that I could, But mentally, I was not like I normally am as far as just kind of like tackling the issue and moving forward. I think for about a week, 10 days, I was checked out.
Just mentally.
Yeah, I was beyond fatigue. I don't even know how to describe
Really.
the fatigue factor.
So you're mentally and physically exhausted.
And I'm up to like 3 months of this happening now. And so I'd gone through all this pain stuff. The pain was unbelievable pain. I mean, I'm a pretty tough guy, I think.
Well, you're a farmer.
And the pain threshold is pretty high. I mean, you break stuff, you just kind of put up with it, and you say "owie," and you just kind of move on. Typically, but I was screaming. All of a sudden, I'm screaming. I go, I'm screaming.
Screaming in your bed.
Screaming in my bed. Any movement, or if I ever coughed or anything, was unbelievable.
Was it low back pain or where was the pain?
Most of the pain was from my waist down, which is interesting because all the infection is halfway up my back. I had no pain there. It was all referred down to where the nerves were cut off. And this electrical lightning pain that is unbelievable.
And that lasted like an hour a day, 10 hours a day, 24/7 for
24/7, relentless.
for how many months?
2.5
Wow.
months of it.
So as you're laying there, are you thinking when those 7 to 10 days where you're like, I'm exhausted, or you're like, were you okay to be like, I'm done?
No, I never checked out, but I did have a moment of empathy that we talked about earlier, I think,
Yeah.
where I got a glimpse as to why people tap out.
Yeah.
I totally did. Now I get it. I said, and I never thought, how would I do it? I never even had those thoughts, but I looked over at all the bottles of medication they given me and that was not taking. I thought, I could see how somebody would take a bottle and say, let's see what happens,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Sure.
But now I have that empathy that I would not have had
You were at the end of your rope there for a minute.
for a minute.
Wow. At 65 years old, the first time you've had that thought.
Yes. Oh, yeah. To
Even
that
with all
extent.
your other experience with Geneva and all that, and
Oh,
having
yeah.
to pay back all
Those
that
are
debt,
stresses, but it's not like I want to check out.
those weren't as heavy as dealing with this recent
I
experience.
guess. Or, you just get to a point where no matter how strong or resilient or powerful your mind is, you hit the wall somewhere. And I think I just hit the wall.
Jeez.
And then I started to come back from it and figure, I did start to have a little bit of relief. And so I assumed that the infection was gone. And I started to wiggle my toes a little bit. When the PT guy would come, I could start to almost lift my leg a little bit. So those little things helped me, that I could say, okay, it's just a matter of time. It's back to the paying Geneva back, or the people part of that. I just need time, and I'm fast at stuff. So whatever timeline people are going to tell me, I'll receive it with kindness. But I have my own timeline.
Yeah, of course you do.
And the doctor said, let's shoot for March or April, which is right now, to be in a walker and get you moving around. You work with a PT to get you moving around the house. And I said, no, I'm going to be back to the gym by the end of December. And just locked my mind into that. And so this is only a month after the last surgery. And I'm moving my toes a little bit.
Wow.
But I had the right PT too,
Did you
who agreed with me, said, okay, let's shoot for that.
do it?
And I'm going to push you then and do stuff that is going to be hard. I said, bring it on.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad he was that way.
Wow.
Competitor by his own college basketball player, so he knew how to compete and he knew how to push. And he was a smart PT. So, right guy that came into my life to help me. Because if he would have been weak and said, nah, and been typical, I think more typical, then I would have probably done the same thing.
Yeah. And I assume, I don't think I saw you at the gym until February, I think.
Right.
Did you make it to the gym the end of the year?
Yeah,
You were there?
December 19th.
Damn.
It was so cool of, those women are in there pretty businesslike, most of them.
Uh-huh.
And somehow I talked to one person that this is, I'm coming back at 1:00 on December 19th. Are you going to be at the gym? Somehow that word got out. And when I walked in, the whole staff was waiting and clapping for me
No way.
at our gym.
No way.
Who's not necessarily on the real warm and fuzzy side.
Wow.
Most of them had balloons there.
That's
Yeah, that was very special.
That's neat. I think there's a really, I don't know, something about, we both go to the treehouse in Draper, but there's some really special people, human beings there, though. There's some neat humans there. I've made some incredible connections there.
Some of my best friends now have come from the gym.
Yeah, there is some really neat people there. And I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, I don't know if they do
special.
that very often. I don't know.
That's really neat.
But, ever since then, couple of the ladies that have a hard time smiling, they give me a huge super smile every time I come in now. And they're like rooting me on, how you feeling today?
Yeah.
And so that's cool.
I really, that's so cool. And also it allows people to open up,
Absolutely.
right? You're in pain. I'm in pain. Now we can actually connect in a manner that we haven't been able to in the past.
And a lot of people have said, Brandon, too, on that note, they'll make a comment like, oh, I thought I had it tough.
Yeah.
Or what I'm going through right now, I'm going to look at it differently.
Yeah.
I'll get those kind of comments.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. They're watching you.
They're watching.
They're watching. They're observing your actions and seeing how well you're going to
Yeah. And
pull
there's
off the
people that come up and they
miracle,
go, you're
right?
walking straighter. You're walking faster.
Yeah.
And you're improving. Your color's better.
Yeah.
Your eyes are brighter.
Yeah.
They'll say stuff. They notice. They watch.
Feels good too, huh?
That's good. Yeah.
Have people comment, help push you. As I watched you walk into the gym the first time a month or two ago when I first saw you back, because you come a little later than me now, but I noticed how slow you were moving. But just to be there and just to show up, right? It doesn't really matter how fast. This isn't a race. For you to walk through that door, get up the steps or get up the elevator, I don't even
Elevator.
know, elevator, and to move into that gym, it's impressive. And do you notice too, like sometimes these setbacks that we get on this planet, in my opinion, here again, I know nothing, but I have a lot of thoughts. We get slowed down for a reason. There's a bigger picture.
Totally.
Sometimes we can't see it when we're in it. It's like like we're in the fog. And so, one main thing I learned from Byron Katie, which I shared before we started chatting, is how it's really changed my life. But she's like, reality is God in action. Like reality rules. And if you ever argue reality, you lose.
I like that.
So there's something going on there, as much pain and suffering. There's a bigger picture there that you may not be able to see, that when you get to the end of the rainbow, that there's going to be a gift there for you, I believe. And as you're moving slower, if you ever consider this too, you see more.
You do.
You smell better. You taste better. You listen likely better. I mean, all your senses are enhanced. Notice when you're walking slow, you're feeling your hips and your knees and before you just walk and took it for granted.
It's true.
Now you're paying attention to your swagger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we get slowed down for a reason. In my experience, I had to get kicked in the square in the balls too to kind of wake up, and learn how to see and connect. You know, not that you weren't a great human being before. Obviously you were, but I think this life is just a work in progress and it never ends.
It is. And on that note, Brandon, then we make choices when we go through these jugular events.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can take the low road too.
Mm-hmm.
You could complain and blame God and have pity for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, why not go for it?
Yeah. Well,
But some people don't have the ability to do that, Brandon.
yeah, you're right.
They just don't know where to go to get it. I believe people would want to,
For sure.
but they can't grasp it. Kind of like your experience. You didn't even know how to get out of the web or whatever you want to call it that you were in, the darkness that you were in.
Sure.
Don't know where the light switch is.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think there was a light switch. I
Yeah.
thought somebody turned it off and it was never coming back on. But it's also like the human drive. Like you've got an incredible drive. It's obvious by the way you've lived your life, and you're not about to let this setback hold you back.
Oh.
You know? I mean, look how you've lived. And it goes back to thoughts too.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? Like your thoughts and your thinking. Some of the people wake up and go, well, you know, I'm stuck. I'm mad at God. I can't get out of bed, so I'm just going to lay here and deteriorate.
Right.
That's just a thought. Or you can have a thought, hey, I'm going to kick this thing in the rear.
Yep.
You know, just a little minimal setback, and it's on my timeline. This ain't going to be a year. This is going to be 6 months, maybe. Right?
True.
Or whatever. And it's all about thoughts. The only thing that holds us back is our thoughts and our thinking,
Yes.
which creates our fear. And when fear sets in, that's when, you know, life becomes
Really
extremely
tough.
difficult. So, what is your thoughts on God, by the way, since you mentioned God?
Well, being raised in a very religious LDS family, and me being a doer and obedient, I just put my head down and went through everything that was expected.
Yeah.
All the young men stuff, to a mission, to marriage, to serving nonstop. And
Did you own a mission?
I did.
Oh,
Los
good for you.
Angeles.
That's a learning
Oh,
experience.
it was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, Hiram Smith was my mission president.
Really?
That's why I wanted to get his blessing on moving, because I had so
I'm
much
so
respect
into
for
the
him.
Franklin day planner,
Yeah,
because you were doing your work.
yeah. I was one of his assistants when he came out as a new, young, 36-year-old mission president.
Wow.
This cool guy from ADP that was just everyone wanted to be like. Everyone wanted to be Hiram Smith.
Yeah. Jeez. So today is your belief in God, what you were taught in a religion, and you got your own belief. You have a universal belief. Like, where is your like spiritual mindset today?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about that and actually shared some thoughts with some people recently. I decided when I went through my divorce to step back from everything that was important in my life and to examine it, because I'd gone through a 35-year marriage that was tough. And again, not saying that I'm saved, but it was just tough. And so I stood back from religion, and mainly religion. And then what I found fascinating, I didn't have a longing to go back. I kind of thought, well, you know, after a year or two, having served in most all the high callings that there are, I thought, certainly I'd want to go back. I've had this break. It'd be kind of cool to go check it out again. No, not even once. I mean, I've been back for occasions, baptisms and receptions and funerals and all those kind of things. I've been in the building, but I've not been to a service. And so to me, I lost a son when he was 25, and I've had more of a spiritual connection to him once I've let go of just being a doer and come back and started to look up, back to smelling the roses, I was not smelling the roses along the way, so I did not have the testimony that we all thought we should have or that we may have professed to have, because it's the politically right thing to say, especially when you're a leader of a congregation. But I never had that. And so I found it fascinating that without religion, I actually had more spiritual experiences. And that was the first fascinating thing. And then I met my current wife, who was not raised in any religion and is this super spiritual, in tune, intuitive person. I kept thinking, wow, this is fascinating to me that you were not raised any certain way, but you've got all these powerful, deep beliefs in a higher authority. The universe is what she would call it. And so that's been a whole nother learning experience for me, to observe her and to understand that it's not just something that she does, it's actually her.
Who she is.
It's who she is to the core.
Yeah.
And everything is manifested from that belief that she has in what God is: love, kindness, forgiveness, gratitude. That's her religion.
Yeah.
And she lives by it. So I've learned a lot from her.
Sure. That's why you married her.
That's why I married her.
We usually grab our partners to learn from, not to get the white picket fence in the house and the whatever, but it's typically a learning experience.
Yeah.
Be able to bounce your thoughts off another human being in close quarters. Yeah, it's so crazy to think, and it's hard when you're raised in a religion to think this way, but like we all have our own inner belief structure and religion within. Mm-hmm. And I, people argue this point with me, but like your core of your belief system, right from wrong when you come out of the womb and you're 5 years old, you understand what's right and what's wrong. You know what I mean? But we think that we go to a congregation or a church to be taught how to live and how and what and why. Well, you've got it already.
Right. But most people, as you know, need some type of rails, guidelines to go and say, okay, this is how I progress. Most people won't do that on their own.
Yeah.
So they look for something, I believe. My something is experiencing how to be spiritually connected without a religious framework. Because my nature is kind, generous to a fault, forgiving, trusting.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. So it's not like I've had to retool myself as much as just kind of opening up myself to other possibilities.
Yeah.
And if you had asked me this 10 years ago, I'd say, no, Brandon, this is the way.
Yeah.
And that I believe that. And I have no regret. I'm not bitter from the experience like so many are that leave churches and religions. No, I'm grateful for the experience. That was a chapter in my life that I'm deeply grateful for. I'm just in a new chapter.
Yeah.
That's all.
You've just evolved. Yeah. The bitterness does you no good.
Does not.
But
so many find that as a way to justify, I guess.
For sure. I would agree with that. But yeah, it doesn't serve you other than maybe it serves you to, maybe go deeper into self.
Yeah.
But
or find
bitter,
something to blame.
Yeah.
To justify your actions. But to me, it just was a very delightful chapter.
Yeah. If you don't mind if I ask, how did you lose your son?
When he was 24, he started to not be able to swallow. And everyone thought it was a gas reflux. What's it called?
Acid reflux?
Acid reflux. Or mental. Had endoscopies, colonoscopies. Nobody could find anything wrong with him. He's losing weight. And I was taking him everywhere. And nobody could figure out what was up with him until the third endoscopy revealed a tumor under his esophagus, which with this type of cancer only comes at the end when it's taken over everything, rather than at the beginning to pop a tumor to say, hey, here I am, I'm cancer. Gastric cancer, which he had, happens in 78-year-old men. They don't ever see it, and they were never looking for it. So they could not see it until it popped a tumor, and then it's over. And there's no protocol. There's not enough for any research. Happens to less than 1% of the cancer victims in the U.S. get gastric cancer. There's no money in it, so there's no research. And they don't know what to do with him. They send him home to die, because that's what you do when you're 78 years old and you get gastric cancer. You go home to hospice and die.
They just said, sorry, Dave, there's nothing we can do for your son.
In fact, after the endoscopy, I was driving him home, and I'm thinking, well, he can't even eat. What am I supposed to do? They didn't even send me home with even instructions. So I'm calling back going, how does he survive? And they said, oh, yeah, we could put a G tube in him and feed him that way. I said, well, okay. Please do. I'm bringing him back now.
Wow.
But the problem was his stomach was dead. And so even a G tube, there's nothing that would digest the food. Nothing moved. It was dead from the esophagus down. Wow. So giving food that way didn't work either. It just spit it back out. Just came right back out the G tube.
So was it esophageal cancer?
No, it was gastric cancer.
Gastric cancer.
It comes in and comes and attacks the lining of the stomach, and you can't see it until it pops a tumor, and it kills the stomach, takes it over. And by that time, too, it had metastasized to other organs. So it was really over. Fortunately, my oldest daughter lived up in Centerville, and she had a friend that she saw just the next day, not a coincidence, but very timely, and she told what had just happened about her brother, what she just found out. And her friend said, well, if I had a brother like that, I'd be over at Marietta's Bergdorf's office tomorrow. She does IV therapy, and she takes cancer victims all the time. So I drove him up the next day. She had a stack of people trying to get in that high on her desk. She was taking people from Huntsman that they couldn't do anything with. They're laying in this room in beds and chairs, recliners, all on IVs. And I go in and start talking to some of them. There's one young man, he was eating dirt. He was just dying. And for some, I guess one of our body reflexes is to eat dirt.
I've heard that.
And he was on death's door when he came in, and he was back for like a checkup, maybe 3 or 6 month checkup with her, and was completely fixed. And it was a real serious cancer he had. He was stage 4 something. He came in on a cot. He couldn't move. He was listless. And I'm going like, and he's about Cam's age. I go, right on. There's a way for my son to survive. So Marietta took him in under his wing. For some reason, she just took to him. We were there from 7 a.m. till midnight most days. And I'd haul him back home, hanging IV bags in the car. He had 9 ports going all the time with food and also things that would kill cancer. And drive him back and forth. And he lasted 6 months, where they gave him in the hospital 2 weeks. A beautiful 6-month experience being with him.
Wow.
Tough. You think Geneva and paying money back? It's nothing.
Nothing compared
Watching
to
your
that.
son fade away.
Deteriorate.
And he never complained once along the way. The only thing he ever said to me is when I was giving him a bath, he just said he saw himself in the mirror, and I was trying to avoid mirrors when he didn't have any clothes on. And he was maybe 70 pounds at that point, 170 down to 70, and literally a skeleton. had no meat. He had no butt. All you could see was hips. And he looked at himself and goes, I can't remember exactly what he said, but all I remember is saying to him, all that stuff can come back. We can get all that back. And that's the last thing he ever said about his condition.
Jeez. I didn't know that. That's a new story. How long ago was that he
That was 2008,
transitioned? So,
February 16th.
wow, 15, 16 years ago.
So it's gone fast. Time does heal certain things, but he'd be 41 right now and probably have a family and would be a connector. It's actually the family the hole can get bigger in some ways as life goes on. My oldest daughter has 17, 15, and 13, almost all ready to click over to 17, 15, 13. Then Cam was number 2. And then my next daughter has a 7, 4, and 2. And there's just not enough. The age is so significant between the teenagers and these young kids. There's nothing in common.
Yeah.
For them to chat with or have a sleepover with. But Cam could have been that bridge. He would have had kids that would have connected probably both of my daughter's kids.
Wow.
So I've thought about that and thought, that's too bad. Just another loss
Yeah.
that you go through.
Everyone's got a story here, Dave, right?
I have a few.
You've got a story. You've lived a life, haven't you?
Yes.
65 quick years.
Yeah. Imagine when I'm 100.
Oh, my goodness. I have a few thoughts on that. I listened to a podcast a week ago. They're talking about all this AI stuff, right? And they had this expert on that's like a savant. He's been doing AI for 30 or 40 years and just a genius. And he literally believes that they're going to be able to figure out the human body and be able to fix a heart, a liver, fix cancer and whatever with all the AI, the education that AI is bringing to the medical facility. He thinks we'll be able to live to 200 pretty easily, but he thinks that some humans will be able to live forever. Is that a crazy thought?
So we're going back to Old Testament times?
I maybe live to be 400, 500, 600 years old.
Yeah, 1,000 here and there.
And if that was true, who knows if they lived that long, but his history, right?
But that's
It's always a story, but imagine that. So you saying you get to 100, maybe in 10 years, as fast as technology is advancing, they may be able to figure out your back.
Oh, that would be all history.
By then, yeah, you'll be moved on and figured out a new something
else
to experience, I'm sure, by then. But imagine if they could figure out what the bacteria or the whatever, because AI just gets in there and, just figures out everything. But would you want to live forever? That's a question. I heard that last week, and I'm like, man, if you were physically fit, could stay okay, your eating and your quality of life was good, would you want to live forever?
I think that's the key. If the quality of life was still good. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
See what comes.
Yeah. Who knows?
Be around to see all this stuff that's yet to happen.
Yeah.
And be here to witness it.
Isn't that nuts, though? Can you imagine?
It's nuts.
And then my brain starts going, okay, the world couldn't handle us living forever because we'd weigh down the planet too much. Then there'd be a natural disaster.
Yeah.
How are we going to feed everybody?
Oh, plenty.
AI will figure that out too. How's there enough water to go around?
There's plenty.
No, there's 8 billion people. Now we got 100 billion people on the planet.
There'll be ways to get it out of that.
Imagine going skiing on the weekends now.
But think about what skiing will be like then.
Probably just take a helicopter up there, your little auto helicopter, and get dropped off on top of the mountain that you run from your garage.
I'll have like a pack that I just put on my back and jet up to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You'll have something. You won't even have to. They're saying that maybe even something else I listened to last week, like autonomous or whatever, like cars
autonomous.
autonomous cars will just be floating around and you'll just float,
Yeah.
drive around in the air.
Yeah, why not?
I mean, then there's no traffic.
That's coming.
Yeah, they said that's not too far off. It's crazy. Anyways, lots to think about. What's your oldest daughter's name?
Amber,
Amber. And then what's your number 3 daughter?
Lindsay.
Lindsay. Do they live in Salt Lake? Utah?
Amber lives in, yeah, they both live in Utah.
Both in Utah? Mm-hmm. You chat with them both?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
It's been tough since I went through the divorce, and
Yeah, they're a little bitter.
yeah, and my ex,
Happens.
yeah, I won't say any more than that.
Yeah, that happens. Back to the other question, my follow-up to, is there a God? Does hell exist? Or Satan?
I think that again is going to be a state of mind that we work towards, and we open the door ourselves for that, based on who we are and what we kind of attract. I think we attract that into our lives. I mean, I know some not very good people,
Sure.
but that it's their choice to become that way.
Yeah.
And I think that they'll just kind of walk into that path when they expire, and that will be something that they're used to. Maybe they'll meet some other people like themselves.
Yeah. Oh, they will.
They will.
That's a for sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you create whatever you're experiencing, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so if you're experiencing heaven right now, that's on you.
Yeah.
And if you're experiencing hell right now, that's on you too.
Yeah.
You know, so I think heaven and hell are a state of mind, as exactly you said. You're sharp, Dave. Damn.
Thank you.
What would say you get to the pearly gates in 200 years? What do you want? What do you want God to say when you arrive?
Well, I would hope you would say you did almost the best you could. There's a few slips, but for the most part, pretty good boy.
You did it. Yeah. You're human, Dave. We've all got our transgressions and
Oh yeah.
things that we do because
But again, back to your
Sometimes,
state of mind, I think we'll be judged on not only our actual behaviors, but our intent too. I think if there is a judgment or we create, I think our intent to do things too is so powerful. And sometimes we're able to engage with those intentions, and other times we can't for whatever reason, or we maybe bail on them. But we had good intentions at some point. Maybe we bumped into the wrong people that we just could not perform those with. I'm not sure. But I just think intent is so valuable too that it's overlooked. Because we say, well, if you don't do it, intent doesn't matter. Well, no, I think intent is a lot about how we're created, how we're creating ourselves, is our intentions. Now you need to act on them, but sometimes you can't.
Sure.
So I should have called my friend before he died. I didn't. I had good intentions though. But shame on me.
Sure.
I was feeling sorry for myself in bed.
Yeah, my thoughts are as you're saying that when we get to the pearly gates and transition to the other side, what if he's like, you know what? You decide. You're the judge.
Yeah. I think we will have again decided we've created who we are, and it'll just be a natural. The gate will open up, and you just walk into what you've already created.
Yeah.
It'll be just really familiar.
What if you could ask a couple questions to whoever's in charge up there? What would be one or two things you'd want to ask?
Well, I have more than two.
Okay, 3. I have all night. I know you're a little bit limited on energy. So I'm, one or two questions you'd want to ask.
Going back to my son, I'd ask why did you need to take him? Why did he have to leave at that age when he had so much more to contribute to mankind? Why? Why did he, of all people, who was called by his sisters the perfect one?
Oh, really?
Because he was, actually.
He's a good kid.
Didn't do anything wrong. Well, why does the perfect one get to have the truck? Because he's perfect.
Yeah.
He did everything.
Yeah.
And you skipped school.
Yeah.
So that'd be one question I'd ask.
While you're thinking of your other question, I have a follow-up on that. What if death's a gift?
There's no question I could argue that point too, that it's a gift. But again, it's my question to God or whoever.
Sure.
Why'd you take him away? My best friend?
It's a great question. That'd be my first question too, if I lost a child.
So I'd more not like, why did you take him? It'd be more like, why did he have to go? Well, can you share with me why he had to go?
Sure.
It'd be more like that.
Yeah. I bet you probably think of that often, don't you?
I think of him quite often, and living where we are and with my wife now, I have an ability to feel his presence. And it's very beautiful in different ways.
Yeah. The veil's not that thick,
Correct.
especially when you slow down.
Good point. No, I truly believe he's right there
Yeah.
when he chooses to be, or maybe when he has time for his old man.
Yeah. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he is.
How about thoughts on the relationship between mind and body?
Well, I'm experiencing something pretty phenomenal right now. So with where the nerves were severed or eaten or broken, whatever the right term is, in my T10, T11, cutting off all the communication to my legs, I've had to figure out how I bypass that system with my mind to connect with my legs. So at first it's like, okay, move your left foot, move your right foot, move your left foot, move your right foot. Don't bend your knees. I had to do all the talking to my legs to get them to move. They just didn't move. It's the weirdest feeling. The thing we just take so for granted is I couldn't do it unless I told my legs to do it. So I've gotten good at that, and it's now becoming subconscious, almost like what it used to be when it was connected to my back. And so the next thing I'm really trying to tap in my mind into my muscle connection, my body connection, is I cannot flex my legs because there's not nerves firing into those muscles. When I do a quad lift, a ham lift, whatever you can think about the legs, I can't feel any muscles firing. Therefore, my strength is not increasing because I'm not getting my muscles back. It's just a bunch of skin and fat hanging on a bone right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's sickening to me.
I'm sure.
But I believe I can bypass my whole neurological system and connect to them. And I'm starting to feel them just twitch a bit.
Wow.
When I'm really focused and kind of keep the gym out of my mind and just tap into that, I've got my little workers down there making pathways of the seven dwarfs. But I have a whole bunch of them. And they're down there opening up the pathways for me with their picks and their shovels and their knitting tools. And it works. And I'm going to I am going to get there to where they are back to how they worked when I had all these nerves coming out of my back. I'm bypassing it.
Wow.
And the mind is doing it. And I
Incredible.
believe in it. I'm not going like, well, I'll try it. I believe it.
Yeah. That's the key, is the belief.
You have to believe it truly.
Got to believe it. You
And
gotta,
it gives you then the stamina to push through all the time it takes to get there. And who knows, maybe that's all I'll get to for a while. But why not? What's the alternative? Do I just stop and quit?
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna be able to teach and share with others how to do that.
Right. Wow. You look serious right now as you say that.
I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
I'm focused,
Yeah.
and I want to get my quality of life back so I can be with my wife, and we can travel and do stuff, and I can go on walks with our dog and mess with the grandkids and stuff like that. I've lost all that ability, and that pisses me off.
Yeah. Puts a little fire in your belly, doesn't it?
You sense it?
Yeah. Just barely.
Just barely. I'm holding back.
Yeah. If you guys only knew the Dave that on September
First.
1st, August 31st was just fit as could be and moving and functioning and strong as an ox and
Yep.
getting her done.
Getting her done.
Next day,
Just like that.
new story,
New journey.
new journey,
Yep.
new challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little obstacle
Yeah.
in this journey we call life.
Yeah.
And Dave rolls in here. He's got walking canes, right? And is that how you started in December when you started moving, or what was the first way that you?
Walker.
Moved.
I had to
You
do
did
a
have a
walker.
walker.
And it was literally, Brandon, even when I talked to my legs, it was like lifting this huge, heavy thing a half a step. And then I'd work on the right. And I'd get maybe 6 steps in and I'd be done. I had no more energy after that.
Wow. All right. Question: who do you most admire on this planet, and why? And even maybe somebody that's not on the planet today. Like, who's affected you the most, do you believe? In a positive manner.
I think there's 2 that come to mind, 2 different ways they affected me. Going back to my son Cam and the way he conducted himself and particularly handled it wasn't even the last 6 months, it was maybe a year and a half of pain and suffering, and just how he conducted himself and still was compassionate, loving, thoughtful of others first. When people would try to come up and try to console him and just say, geez, he would just turn the subject around and just want to know how they're doing. So he had a big impact on me.
Who did he learn that from? You or your wife? Or both?
Probably shouldn't answer this. That's how I am.
Of course. I could already see it before. That's why I asked the question.
And the other one would be Stephen Covey.
Really?
Yeah, because his kids worked with me and for me, and they were everything he preached. So I'd never seen somebody that had such a profound impact that made money that actually was that way authentically. Hiram and other great leaders outwardly were one way and not necessarily consistent throughout, a little bit duplicitous, which I think we all are to a certain extent. But Stephen R. Covey, he was exactly what he taught. He was that way his whole life. And then you can see it in his kids and how they were raised and now how they are. So that really had an impact on me and helped me want to be like him. And that's how I led the companies that I started after Cubby, was to incorporate those principles into the company. Because frankly, Cubby sucked. The Cubby organization sucked at it. There's just too many young guys, too much competition, too much politics, in my opinion, looking back on it. But I knew the profound impact that it had on me, and then I wanted to have that in a business and have that from the day one on, and have the culture built around these principles. So that has a lasting influence on me still, how I look at business and how I act in a business is how I hope he would act.
I love human beings more than anything that practice what they preach.
They're hard to
It's
find.
such a gift.
Such a gift, and takes so much discipline and work and desire.
And there's not many people that can do it.
Mm-mm.
And I even go back to the trainer. You go to the gym and I'll look and there's a human being training this individual and they're 300 pounds.
No,
I'm like, no, wait a second.
no, I don't get it.
You're a personal trainer and you haven't been on the treadmill or picked up the weights
Right.
in 3 years.
Right.
Like I don't know. I've never been able to quite figure that out. It's crazy. If you had one more day on this planet, and money wasn't an issue and you could do whatever you wanted, what would your last day on Earth look like?
Interesting. Last day on Earth looked like. If I knew it was the last day,
Yeah.
probably get up and go to the gym and come home and spend some time with my wife and go out and walk the dog and say goodbye.
It's kind of what you do now, isn't it?
Similar.
Kind of living your dream.
Yeah, I am. I'm as content and happy as I've ever been.
Even with this little setback,
Oh, that's just a inconvenience,
just a hiccup.
just a hiccup. Doesn't change the fact of how I feel about life.
Wow. Do you have any like massive regrets that you can think about today?
I have so many regrets, or I don't know if they're regrets as much as I could have done way better in things. Yeah, it's interesting. When I married Sandra, I used that word regret with her early on. She goes, "Why do you have regrets?" I go, "I don't know. That's just how I've been brought up, and I have regrets. I've been taught to feel guilty about things, and it's hard to shake." So, regret-wise, Brandon,
Just a question, and you don't have to answer it.
well,
either.
I'm trying to think of one that's like profound. It's a regret. I have a lot of mistakes I've made, and I don't know if I have regrets. I think because that's part of the fabric that I'm made of. So why would I cut part of that out?
You wouldn't. No mistakes here either.
Yeah, mistakes because I had choices and I chose the wrong thing.
You chose the right thing because it's what you chose.
I chose the thing that I did, yes, but I chose. Okay.
No, just semantics, but no, I don't know. I'm just I've
Okay,
just
let's
come
arm
to
wrestle now.
Okay,
Let's see
no,
who-
you'll probably win.
Oh, I'd win.
Oh, guaranteed. Yeah, you're a fighter. Yeah, just what I mean by that is no mistakes. Like everything that's happened in your life was meant to be. It was on purpose and on point, and we want to look at it and argue it, but it was exactly what we needed in that moment, whether we went left or went right. It's almost like, and you said it, I don't really have any regrets. It was all part of the fabric of my upbringing. And without that fabric, you wouldn't be this incredible human being that's sitting here today.
Wow.
And all those experiences. I'd call them, I have a hard time saying mistakes, experiences.
Definitely experiences. Yeah.
Right?
With choices that we made.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can buy that.
Yeah. And like back to what Byron Katie says is there's reality always rules. So whatever decision you made in that moment, that was the reality of it. And was what was meant to be. How do we know? That's what happened. How do we know you were meant to get divorced? You're divorced. Simple. How do we know your son was supposed to transition at 25? Because he did. And if you argue it, then we just find pain. And any human mind would argue that, though. Right? Argue that, wait a second, my son shouldn't have passed at 25. He should have lived this fruitful, amazing life and had kids, beautiful wife, and get to experience everything I did.
It's not. I think for me, the feeling is more wishful.
Yeah.
Rather than bitter. I went through an angry phase after he was taken, for sure. But I didn't go to any counseling. I should have, because I didn't know how to grieve. I was running a company. I'm the dad. I'm the money breadwinner. You just suck it up. It's like ripping your finger off of the wrench when you're working on a fence. You just suck it up until the job's done.
Yeah. So,
yeah. I don't know why I just said that, but it was more around this.
Yeah.
It's more wishful.
Mm-hmm.
I wish he would be here. It'd be
course.
Cool if he was.
Oh.
But again, I don't spend time thinking, why on earth was he taken from us? I definitely had some of those thoughts at the beginning.
Of course. It's natural.
Yeah, so
those are natural human thoughts that any...
I didn't really answer your question that well.
Yeah, you did. It's great. It's great. What's your biggest fear today?
I don't think I have any fears.
Can't think of anything?
And it doesn't mean I'm above anything. It's just nothing comes to mind that is like daunting or fearful to me. It's kind of like I'll do the best I can, and whatever happens from my behavior, those things happen.
Incredible.
Kind of a simple code.
That's an incredible state of mind. No concerns about your physical health and where you're going to go from here today?
There's not an option. I'll just be done. I'll just get through it. I'll be 100%.
Good for you. I love it. You give your future self a bit of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Probably back to what we talked about earlier, and I still am learning how to smell the roses on the way. So that's my ongoing counsel, and that's the words actually that I use for myself is like, I need to pause, take a deep breath, and smell the roses. But like when I get in these type of modes of getting through stuff, my head just gets down and I'm driven. It's like playing football. You give the ball to me. At the end, if you want a touchdown, I'm the guy to do it. Yeah. And so I just kind of built that way. So again, I'm not seeing some of the color along the way, this journey, but I'm trying to. Yeah. I'm trying to feel it, sense it, mainly because so I can share it with others to maybe help somebody. Yeah. Mainly this mind-body connection. I'm paying a lot of attention to that, but then I may be missing other stuff too, Brandon. So I'm aware that's a blind spot for me. and I need to be aware of that blind spot. I
Yeah.
need people. I need these type of conversations for me to go, yeah, I can do better on that,
Yeah.
and I want to do better on that.
Yeah, I think we all have blind spots on our life and along our journey, and it's just how do we expose them and see them and open them up and then tackle them.
Usually, you need some good close friends
Yeah,
around you that you trust that will have the courage to tell you.
yeah, yep. They see you much more clearly than you do.
Oh yeah,
Hard to see yourself,
oh yeah,
you know.
agree.
Yeah. How about your purpose in one sentence? What could you say your purpose is here? Define your purpose in one or two sentences.
To make a small difference in other people that is positive.
Beautiful. Are you a fan of Bitcoin?
No,
No? Have you studied it?
quite a bit.
You understand it?
To my extent, I don't know. I think I do.
Why are you not a fan?
I just, it's too new for me still. I'm
Yeah.
just old school on some of those areas of investing and use of funds, and that's just still too new for me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm scared of it or don't believe in it. I'm just waiting for a while. Yeah, will I miss out on some things? Yeah, I've got some people that already made millions and millions of dollars doing it, but I'm not driven by that.
Yeah.
I need to be really excited about it and find it fascinating to me and thus fulfilling. And none of those things are even close on the radar with me.
Yeah. It's a really neat technology, and it's going to create a level playing field for the planet. There's so many unique tools that are going to come along with Bitcoin, in my opinion. I've researched it and studied it for the last 4 years, and what it's going to do for mankind, I think, like, we have no idea. Like, I think it's an incredible technology that's going to change lives.
That's cool to hear.
Like, think
those
about
phrases.
Africa and the money. I think the value of their dollar lost 50% last year. Imagine if they owned a Bitcoin and could transact with it. And now Africa, little 25-year-old guy in Africa that's working for $2 an hour is putting all his money into Bitcoin, and it's actually growing or holding at a fair value instead of being depreciated 50% in 12 months.
Yeah.
Just like the US dollar, it's being
Yep.
depreciated, debased 10% a year. The government won't tell you that.
Oh no.
But go shop for groceries or buy a car or try to buy a house and tell me that inflation's around 2 or 3 or 4%.
Oh, it's 18% last 3 years.
They're lying to us.
Yeah.
And so Bitcoin's going to create, I believe, a leveling playing field for the planet. Imagine if everybody on the whole planet was transacting with the same universal type of like fiat if it gets there.
No, I like that aspect of it for
I
sure.
just think it's like the people's money. And so that in itself, if it creates a fair playing field for the 8 billion people on the planet, there's no other fiat that could do that. I mean, that in itself it's just fascinating to me,
That is.
you know? And it's just things that people don't consider, you know? People don't, I talk about this quite a bit because I'm a huge fan, but if I talk to 10 people, maybe one of them owns Bitcoin or believes in it. But it's not much different than, like I spoke with my wife last night. Remember the cell phones that were the brick phones?
Oh yeah, I had one.
Yeah. I remember my first phone. I was 19 or 20 years old. Pick up the phone. It was $1 a minute.
Yep.
And we're like, no way can people afford this. This is ridiculous. 95% of the planet owns a cell phone now,
Yeah.
a smartphone.
Yeah.
25, 30 years ago, only a few people owned them.
And the first ones that you could actually use had to be installed in a car.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
Before the
Remember
brick.
that? Yeah, before
mobile
the brick,
ones.
there was the one
I
that
have
was mounted
one
in the car.
installed in my car in '86.
Yeah.
Yeah, '86.
So look at that technology. And then you had to pay $1 a minute. Now it's free.
Yep.
You know, you can talk on your phone for $50 a month. You can talk unlimited minutes, talk to anybody on the planet.
Yep.
Bitcoin's in its infancy, like the brick cell
That's a good
phone.
analogy.
And in 10 years, this is my own personal belief, 95% of the planet will transact in Bitcoin. I truly believe that. It's just such new technology, and it's strange, and people don't understand it, but people aren't also willing to go and dive in and educate themselves on it. So if you don't understand it, of course you're not going to buy into it, right?
Yeah.
But when you completely understand what it's doing, and it's going to be beneficial for our planet, for everybody involved, I have a hard time arguing that it's not beneficial. But here again,
I'm so glad you said it that way. Yeah. And I've always looked at it as just from an investment point of view, investing in certain cryptocurrencies.
Sure.
And I was just too, like I told you, just was too out there for my style.
For sure. It's like Warren Buffett.
But I get it. I get it's coming, and nothing's stopping it.
It can't. It's like a freight train. It's like the fastest growing technology next to AI is taken over now, but like it's incredible technology. Yeah. It's crazy. And it's being already transacted, and governments are El Salvador. That's now their fiat. They made $400 million in the last couple of years because they put all their money into fiat. Now their value of their holdings is $400 million, which could turn that whole country around, you know. I mean, there's just so many beautiful, it's perfect money. There's a Michael Saylor's like the lead guy that talks about Bitcoin, and he's like, if God was to drop down right now and make the perfect fiat, he'd make Bitcoin. It's like hope for humanity.
Interesting.
So just another take on it.
Oh, I love that human side of it. I've never really heard it spoke of like that before. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course, yeah. And you listeners, it's, go watch, just go Google Michael Saylor and watch some YouTube podcasts and listen to about 10 of them. And if he doesn't change your mind, I'll be shocked. Okay. It's really neat.
I'll do that.
Anything else that you want to chat about, Dave, or anything I should have asked you today that I didn't?
There's so many things I'm so glad you didn't ask me about.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what they are. Jeez.
You don't want to really expose yourself today?
No,
come on, Dave. We're friends now.
I think I have.
You can tell me everything.
I think I have.
We're friends.
More than I have for a long time. But do I get asked a couple of questions?
Yeah. What do you want to ask?
You've asked them both the ones I wrote down.
Really?
What or who inspires you?
What or who?
What or who?
Well, these are the two people on the planet currently that I would be thrilled to have on the podcast. So the first would be Byron Katie. She's probably the most incredible human being I've ever met, that talk about living what you preach. I mean, she's the epitome of kindness, love, clarity. She's so sharp. She doesn't vacillate. She's clear. Her decisions are immediate. She inspires me. In fact, I talk about her on almost every single podcast. I just mention her name because her work is so life-changing. So I'd start with her, and then number 2 would be Michael Saylor, and listen to him talk about Bitcoin. And he owns MicroStrategy. I think they own 210,000 Bitcoins they purchased in the last 4 years. But the guy went to MIT, and to listen to him explain Bitcoin and the properties of Bitcoin and how it's going to change our planet, like, I don't even know where he comes up with his information, but he's fascinating. And so
Maybe it's his
those two
information.
guys, of course, yeah, he's a big thinker, got an incredible
on the
mind.
bleeding edge of it.
Oh, his mind's incredible.
Well, I can see why it would be Byron Katie, because she changed your life.
Absolutely.
So I get that.
Yeah. Her piece of paper saved my life, I could say, and she doesn't take credit for coming up with it, although she did. She said it was delivered to her. That's how humble she is. She's like, this isn't my work. This was delivered to me. I can't take credit. It's just a thought. She's an incredible human being. That's another thing. If anybody out there struggling or stressed, anxiety, depression at the end of your rope, and you go to her, I think she has another, she's doing a 5-day school now. I think it's when is it? In April, maybe? It's a game changer. I would recommend it for every single human that exists on the planet. You go see her. My brother just went last year, and he's like, every single person on the planet needs to go experience that. Literally changes the way you perceive, the way you see, the way you operate, the way you live. Just fascinating human being she is. So
Right on.
there you go.
Last question. You said 2.
Sure.
What would you do over if you could?
Nothing.
Damn, because I already answered that same question.
Yeah.
I've got to think of a different one.
No, they're great. I mean, and we talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, is there some things in my life? I've lost millions. I've made millions. Do I wish I didn't lose the millions that I lost? Of course, but like they're all learning experiences.
That's where actually the richness is.
Yeah.
Darn it.
It's in the education
Yeah.
of the process, you know?
And it's a shame for those who become bitter or angry from going through tough times because they miss all the learning.
Yep.
And you've already invested in it, so why don't you at least take the learnings with you?
Yeah.
But many don't.
Yep.
And they go down this same cycle again. They go through the same stuff again because they don't learn.
Yep. You got to face your fears, and we all have fears. But man, if you can, you said something earlier about taking the ball. Like if you want a touchdown, like, do you know how rare that mentality is?
It's probably pretty rare.
It's very rare. And I didn't know that because I thought everybody thinks like that. And that's how I used to think as a kid. And then I went through my fear and anxiety for 2 or 3 years. I couldn't barely function. And I was totally fear-based. But before that, nothing scared me. And then fear set in. And then I had to rewind and unwind the fear to come back to where today, now I still have a little bit of fear. But as a kid, I was fearless. Mm-hmm. But challenging and being willing to get out of bed and like go through it instead of around it. Like some people don't want to face their fears and to have a mindset that's able and willing. It's like 1 in 100 as I research and talk and meet with people and converse. Like it's a rare gift that you have that ability. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any advice you want to share? Just last final thought.
I think there's been
For the
so
listeners.
much. People are going to be bored to tears listening to my stuff already.
I think they're going to love it.
So,
You got an incredible story, Dave. Literally fascinating, and thanks for showing up today. I appreciate you. Like time is one of the most precious commodities here on this planet, and you just shared 2.5 hours of your time with me, and I can't thank you enough.
but one of my answers, and you're welcome, one of my answers to your questions is if I can make a little bit of a difference to somebody. So that's why I'm here. That's why you're doing this.
Absolutely.
Too, and there's one piece of advice I'd give to people that I've learned again and again and again, particularly right now going through this physical journey, is when the time to perform arrives, the time of preparation is over. And most people will shake their head at that, but they just don't do it. They don't apply that principle in their life. Yeah. And the boomerang effect is both from a negative and a positive point of view. So what we're doing today is going to show up somewhere.
Yeah. It's going to be in the ether forever.
Could
just
be.
so you know. You're floating around out there unless we live forever, live to be 200. Be able to listen to this
Call you Abraham,
for a while.
Moses, Methuselah. Who else lived a long time? Adam.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just telling you
Yeah.
what the book says. Good book
I
says.
don't know. Yeah, I'm not highly educated in religion, so
Noah.
I'm the wrong guy to ask. Noah and his ark
Noah and his ark
with all the animals,
with all the animals.
all of them.
All of them.
Was there an aquarium on that boat?
Possibly.
Had to be. How big was the boat?
Huge. It
Maybe.
carried everything.
That's my brother's favorite topic. He's like, how did they do that? It's impossible. Well, no, it's in the Bible, so it happened. I don't know. I don't know anything. I just have thoughts. So, all right. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I really appreciate you. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Minds Gym podcast. And thanks for taking time out of your busy day to listen to me and my lovely guest. Please comment if you would, please. It means the world to me. A ton of effort goes in to this podcast, and time, effort, and money. And if you would, please comment and like and share this with all your friends. And don't forget, your natural state of being is peace and love. If you experience anything other than that, then you're out of your natural state of mind. So, how do you get your regular state of mind back? You got to question your thinking. Byron Katie worksheet will change your life. So, if you guys please would, check out themindsgym.com. Check out my website. If you're buying or selling a home, commercial property, residential property, go to skipropertiesutah.com. And I'm putting together a real estate fund when I wanted to talk to Dave about it, but we're going to talk offline another day because he's pretty savvy in that private equity and VC and helping out with family offices. So Dave and I will have a conversation about a real estate fund outside of that. But if anyone's looking to invest in a real estate fund, I've got an incredible opportunity coming up in 1 or 2 months. And please reach out to me. You guys know the email, themindsgym@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Have a beautiful day. And don't forget to look in the mirror and tell yourself how much you love yourself every day. It makes a difference. Peace. And thanks again, Dave.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for listening. And there is an immense amount of effort that goes into this podcast. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Remember, if I survived my crazy mind and thoughts, so can you. If you are struggling, asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Please follow us at The Minds Gym on Instagram and TikTok. Peace out for now from your friend, Brandon Bickmore, your turbo lover.